This is not really a used bike vlog. This is a new bike vlog. You've seen Brianna in some of my Project Used Bikes videos and the used bike vlogs and all that. Her old bike was a Giant, and it was one of their basic models, V-brakes, Shimano Tourney drivetrain, very entry level. I think it retailed for like 500 bucks. You know, okay as like, basic mountain bike, urban bike, but still just a good beginner platform. Brianna recently picked up one of these Norco Scene 2s. This is everything we liked about that Giant, but more so. It's got the comfier riding position, it's got disc brakes, it's got a better Shimano drivetrain, it's got the swept back handlebars, it's got internal cable routing, it's got everything you could want on a bike. Now this bike is available in a non-step-thru version, but Brianna went with the step-thru because with her proportions, it's kind of hard to stay on the saddle when she stops at traffic lights and things like that. So she likes coming forwards off the saddle. And the problem with the old setup was that that metal bar right there was getting in the way. The step-thru design solves all of that. And these days, step-thru does not necessarily make the bike a women's bike or a men's bike. These days, it's more about the choice of aesthetics and the ease of mobility on the bike. I've seen customers use bikes like this because they have hip problems or mobility problems of some sort, and the step-thru makes everything a lot easier so they can keep cycling when otherwise it would be really inconvenient. Something else about these bikes, Sheridan College at their nearby Hazel McCallion campus, the one by Square One in Mississauga, they have the Bike Hub program there where they use these as effectively rental bikes for the students. And they're super durable, I see them riding around the city all the time. They made a good choice with these, I think. Spec-wise, the Scene 2 is the mid-range model. So this one is obviously a little bit better than the Scene 3, but not quite as good as the Scene 1. The Scene 1 has hydraulic disc brakes and a 1x drivetrain. It's a really great bike, but it's a little excessive in my opinion for this style of bike. The Scene 3, the more basic model, isn't equipped quite this well, and it really wouldn't have been an upgrade from Brianna's old Giant. This bike sits right in the middle of the range, and it's basically perfect. It's the Goldilocks bike. Not too hard, not too soft, you know. Shimano's Altus drivetrain may not be the most modern high-tech thing around, but it's been produced and developed for so long that it's one of the most reliable systems you can have. It shifts fairly quick, it's got the ergonomic trigger shifters instead of some old twist shifter or something like that. You really can't go wrong with the Altus drivetrain for regular urban use, casual use, commuting, anything like that. Up front, the bike doesn't have the 1x drivetrain, it has the old school triple gear set, so 3 gears in the front, and that makes the bike a little bit more capable in hilly areas like Mississauga. There's not much here that's flat, the whole city's kind of just rolling hills like that. As for the tire choice, these are the Kenda Quick 7.5s. These are the same tires that were on Brianna's old bike, except they're the 27.5 inch instead of the 26 inch. These tires roll really nicely, they have good puncture protection, they don't wear very fast. Like, these are a great choice of tire for any bike that's going to be used in the city. The disc brakes that are on here are mechanically operated, so they have a cable instead of hydraulics. And they're from Tektro, so relatively basic, but they work way better than V-brakes. They have about the same kind of power as a normal V-brake, but because they're disc brakes, they keep working when the bike's wet, so if you get caught in rough conditions, this bike stays safe. Norco builds the frames on their bikes to be really beefy and near indestructible. I will say this bike is a little bit heavier than Brianna's old Giant, but the geometry is much more spot on, and it has features like internal cable routing, which makes everything a lot cleaner. Speaking of the geometry on it, that's really what sets this bike apart from everything else. Other companies make bikes similar to this, so Specialized makes the Roll, for example. But from my experience, the Scene is just the comfiest, the easiest to ride, the most user-friendly. It's got the cup-style saddle that supports better from underneath and allows you to rotate your hips back to keep your back more upright. It's also got the swept back handlebar, which is obviously much more ergonomic for regular everyday riding. It doesn't lend itself to aggressive riding very much, but if you're buying this style of bike, you probably don't want to be super aggressive. So to summarize, this bike might not be the fanciest thing out there, but it's really well made. Norco does a lifetime warranty on their frames. It's a fantastic brand built with fantastic components. It's going to work great if you're riding in the city or you want something for a casual ride, something nice and upright. It would work great for commuting, it's utilitarian. The only reason you would not consider this bike is if you want to be competitive on your bike, or if you want something that's got a bit higher spec that you want to be able to show off a bit more. But other than that, for functional purposes, this bike's fantastic.